or artificial intelligence already assists all of us in everyday life, but one type of AI has taken the internet by storm lately. Chatbots. Microsoft and Google are the latest to add chatbot options to their search engines. And joining us now is Dr. Matt Lease. He's the professor in the School of Information at University of Texas at Austin. Dr. Lease, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So your research, as I understand it, focuses on building new AI models. For those of us who are new to all of this, explain in layman's terms what we're talking about here, kind of from 30,000 feet.
Sure. Let me play a quick guessing game with you, actually.
Okay.
I'm thinking of a three-word phrase. The first two words are Monday night. Can you guess the third?
Football.
Yes, right. So how did you do that? We're so used to seeing certain words occur together that just by counting sort of the frequency of them, we can play that guessing game. So I put that query into Google this morning, and indeed, Google guesses that third word, because if you look at all the pages on the internet, that's the most often the word that follows. But actually, maybe I was thinking of something else. So the second search result in Google was Monday Night Brewing, which is a place in Atlanta, Georgia. And so when ChatGPT plays this kind of guessing game, it may or may not be guessing the right answer. And that's the challenge here, is it's so good at guessing what's the most likely, the most frequent word to follow next, that it produces very fluent text that seems very believable, but is often wrong if it's guessed the wrong thing. And that's the real challenge with this technology, is just simply memorizing statistics and guessing, which is often right, but when it's not, it can be very convincingly wrong.
And when it's right or wrong, it's being used in abundance, anywhere from helping kids with homework to trying to make people seem smarter maybe than they really are. As we talk about all this type of AI, which has exploded recently, let me ask you this. To one system writing a quote, it wants to be alive, it seems to have its own learning curve. How are we impacting these systems by interacting with them?
Well, sure. So they start out by looking very much at just information on the web, and then we're using more and more feedback from humans to try to tune and filter the output further. But sort of with any new technology, we start with this sort of exciting moment, this peak of unrealistic expectations, this trough of disillusionment where we find that it really can't do everything we think it can. And eventually we get up to some place where we actually are productive with these. So with these new technologies, there's always a nascent period where we're trying to figure out what best to do with them before we really figure out how to be most productive. And right now, that's a lot of what's happening, is people are playing around with this, and we find that they can give us very surprising answers, but often be very wrong answers.
So I think at cocktail parties, people are having this conversation. Have you seen this stuff? I saw a story on the, all over the place. Yeah. We're seeing it. What is the right conversation to have with people, or maybe young people, about this emerging technology? How would you encourage people to dialogue about this kind of uncharted water that we're in?
Well, again, this is like any new technology. It's really a fun, exciting frontier to play with, but we just really need to be careful of the fact that, again, because it's sort of, again, playing this guessing game of just looking at what's the most likely word to come next, it's going to produce very fluent answers, but that doesn't mean there's any deep understanding or that those answers are necessarily correct. So this is like a fun thing to start playing with. You can imagine there's many cases where you have to generate content very quickly in a short amount of time. A content mill is a great example of this. But even we're seeing, say, in a lot of journalism where we maybe can take the box reports and automatically generate an article so somebody doesn't have to write them. So this is a great tool for producing content very quickly, but somebody always needs to review the output right now to make sure it's accurate before we trust it or use it, particularly in any high-stakes scenario.
Last question before we let you go. You're a founding member, as I understand, of the university's Good Systems initiative to develop ethical AI solutions. And in an ideal world, what would an AI look like, and is it attainable in an ethical ecosystem?
Sure. Well, some of the things we think a lot about are how can we make AI technologies that are fair? How can we make AI technologies that are more transparent or interpretable for the people that use them? And in general, we think of computing technologies as tools that help us to be more productive. A lot of things that we can't do at scale, computers are very good at doing these kinds of things over and over again, very fast, very quickly for us. So we're trying to think about how we design human AI partnerships where the AI can be trusted to do its share of the work reliably and leave the rest for us. So these are these challenges about putting the right guardrails on AI such that we can work effectively with these as tools.
Dr. Matt Lease, professor at the School of Information at the University of Texas at Austin, thanks so much for spending part of your Thursday morning with us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.